By bravely confronting the occupiers, Ukrainians have set a new global trend, the trend of courage. At the same time, we want the world to know that Ukraine is not only brave, but also talented people. Actors, directors, musicians, writers, painters, and other artists. My name is Catherine Litvinchova, and you're listening to the second season of UA, The Day That We Survived podcast. The war that Russia started against Ukraine affects the whole world. The food blockade, price hikes, and energy blackmail are just some of the damage caused by the Russian Federation. We cannot be silent about it. And at the same time, we are trying to share the stories of real Ukrainians who are amazingly resilient despite the circumstances. You can support our efforts as an independent media and a podcast platform on Patreon via the link in the description. Today's episode is dedicated to Ukrainian culture and its creators, who are developing even to the accompaniment of Russian bombing. In 6 months of war, Russia destroyed or damaged 500,000 objects of cultural heritage and cultural institutions in Ukraine, according to the Ministry of Culture and Informational Policy of Ukraine. The Russian military dropped a heavy bomb on the Mykolaiv Drama Theater. It destroyed a century-old Belgian Lyceum in Luhansk region and the 160-year-old Church of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary in northern Ukraine. The 500-year-old Svetohirsk Monastery in Donetsk region was partially destroyed. In Kharkiv region, the occupants bombed the Museum of Ukrainian philosopher Grigory Skovoroda and shelled the Kharkiv house Slovo, which housed famous Ukrainian writers, the representatives of the executed Renaissance. Almost all of them were repressed in the 1930s by the Soviet authorities. For centuries, Russia has tried to destroy Ukrainian culture and replace it with its propaganda. Over the past 3 centuries, the Ukrainian language has been banned 134 times. First by the Russian Empire, and later by the Soviet Union. Today, Ukrainian theater is removing plays by Russian authors from the program and rediscovers the Ukrainian repertoire for the audience. Igor Zakharchuk, actor of the Ivan Franko Drama Theater in Ivano-Frankivsk and founder of the theater studio Жив був пес, or There Once Was a Dog, says that life after the 24th of February has changed in every sense.
В театральній школі теж відбулися зміни, тому що більшість сімей, більшість дітей виїхала.
There were also changes in the theater school because most of the families and most of the children left. So the school didn't function for the first months. The theater took a mini break for 1 week. We didn't understand what was happening and in what direction to move forward. The management decided to continue playing. In the first days, I didn't understand what was going on with me. As an artist, I was deeply troubled by all this, and I could never imagine that I would live during the war. At that time, most people went to the front. Someone started volunteering, and we started showing plays. But I didn't understand if it was the right thing to do, to go on stage. Should we gather people together and entertain them with our talent? I realized that even when I was on stage, I couldn't transition because my thoughts stayed with the events that were happening around. I was anxious because I have a small child here. So if there was an air raid, something bad could happen, and I couldn't transition as an actor in the early days. But when we experienced the first applause and saw the eyes of people who came from really hot spots of the war, I realized that we were on the right track. You need to go on stage. You need to continue living and creating.
Що потрібно виходити на сцену, потрібно далі дихати, потрібно далі жити, потрібно далі творити.
In the early days, Igor started volunteering at the theater. His team worked with displaced children and used various games-based exercises to help them mentally decompress. And here is how their repertoire in the theater studio changed after the war.
We went in a different direction altogether. We wanted positivity, we wanted a fairy tale. But now, even talking about staging a play with children, about the events which were taking place, seems unnecessary. There is so much of this, so children see and know it all. And I want to draw them out of it. We want to organize some fantasy fairy tales plays. We thought about something on mermaids, and then we thought about Alice in Wonderland, something cosmic like that.
The city of Mykolaiv is located in the south of Ukraine, less than 100 kilometers from occupied Kherson. While we were recording this episode, Russia hit the city with 9 missiles. Due to constant enemy shelling in Mykolaiv, almost every residential building has been left without windows. Dmytro Skorohodov is a sound and video operator, vocalist and photographer. He works in the Rock House pub, located in the basement. This allows the establishment to continue working. Here is what Dmytro told us about Mykolaiv and the Rock House.
We have a rock establishment with a great authentic name, the Rock Hut, or Rock Chata in Ukrainian. Chata is the ethnic name of Ukrainian home. Before the war, the place hosted powerful rock festivals such as the Wild Garden. It also helped children with special needs. This is truly a home for souls who are in love with rock music. And now, this place is a bomb shelter. Rock Chata has been working throughout the war, almost with no interruptions. During these many months, it's been the only place where concerts were held. After all, it's not just about music, but about living despite everything. This means that the city is alive. This also means that you can suck it, but you can never get Mykolaiv. War is a terrible stress. There is a curfew. There are patrols, checkpoints, and mined beaches. People go crazy because of that. Here, you can heal your broken heart and shout "Everything will be Ukraine" alongside many other voices. And you can tell the Russian warship to go F itself. We've got dozens of concerts during the air raids and hundreds of souls that healed. Amazing local rock musicians who stayed in the city were rocking here time after time. We're talking about such musicians as Kryla, Rimayov, Cheplenko, Skorohodov, and others. We stood our guard. Rock Chata carried music throughout the war, and it still carries it. It's like a gracious fire that cleanses people. Later, miracles started happening. Here, in the Kingdom of Rock, with motorcycles in the main hall, we listened to the Mykolaiv Philharmonic Orchestra. We listened to classical violin music, folk instruments, and the garrison orchestra in our place. This is fantastic. The city is holding on with all its might. A theatre started working in the shelters, and 2 concerts were performed by an amazing jazzman, Alexiev. You can breathe a little. I would like to note that all Rock Chata's concerts since the beginning of the war have been charitable. The admission is free, and the money people give is transferred to the defenders. Nobody would ever think of doing it any other way. When there are a lot of people inside, it can get a bit hot, so we need to invest in better ventilation. But it feels very intimate this way. On the wall behind the stage, there are photos of our soldiers. It is a good place where everyone can see them. The photos are of the soldiers who died in the war. There are also photos of bikers and rockers and of good people. They will definitely not be forgotten here. This is the story from the fortress in southern Ukraine, from Mykolaiv, where there are wonderful people and a rock house. Glory to Ukraine.
Слава Україні!
Because of the Russian war, many Ukrainian artists create new works and rethink existing compositions about Ukraine. You may have heard the song «Ой, лузі, червона калина» or its English language equivalent «Hey, hey, rise up». In the first days of the full-scale Russian invasion, the frontman of the Ukrainian band Boombox, Andriy Khlivnyuk, who is now serving in the Territorial Defense Troops, sang this song a cappella on the St. Sophia Square in Kiev. At the same time, the Kivnes, a famous electronic music author from South Africa, made a remix of Andri's performance. Later, for the first time in 30 years, Pink Floyd recorded the single Hey Hey Rise Up together with Andriy Khlyvnyuk. And the song immediately topped the World iTunes charts. More than 100 years ago, this song about the Red Viburnum was sung by the Siege Riflemen, soldiers of the Ukrainian volunteer legions in the Austro-Hungarian army who fought against the Russian Empire. Today, Ukrainians are fighting against Russia again, singing the same song of Chervona Kalina. Musician and composer Miroslav Milemuk told us how his life has changed with Russia's full-scale invasion.
Привіт.
I'm a composer of film music, and I'm also a bass guitarist in such bands as Pristani, Max Potashnik's band, Imit, and the orchestra of the evening show Nashi Bez Rashi, or Ukraine Without Russia. Until February 24th, we were very busy in all of the bands. We were getting ready to perform in Kiev.
Йшла підготовка до виступу в Києві, також
For several months, we were preparing for a live show, an online concert that was supposed to take place on February 24th. After February 24th, everything changed and all plans were put aside or simply cancelled.
всі плани відійшли в сторону і просто скасувалися.
During the first months, there was no time for creativity. Miroslav was busy accommodating IDPs in Lviv and at the same time worked with the territorial defense. However, over time, he was able to resume his musical activity.
Вперше до творчості я повернувся, здається, в травні, коли до мене звернулися з литовського телебачення.
I think the first time I returned to creative work was in May. This is when people from Lithuanian television approached me with an offer to write music for their film about literature. They decided to support Ukrainian composers and buy music from us. Also in May, I wrote music for short films by directors from Canada and the USA.
United 24 я пишу музику до фільмів за донати, які люди з різних країн світу.
After the establishment of the United 24 portal, I started writing music for films for donations that people from different countries will collect on this platform. It's convenient for them, and they can choose the category where they want to direct their funds. Since the summer, work has also resumed in musical bands. We are rehearsing again. With Max Potashnik, we performed in children's camps where there were displaced children. We tried to support and distract them with our art. With the Emmet Band, we're working on a song about the war and all the injustice it brings.
І всі несправедливості, яку вона несе.
Both in 2014 and with the beginning of the full-scale invasion in 2022, Russian authorities claimed they came to Ukraine to protect the Russian-speaking population. Some Ukrainians did indeed speak Russian or consume Russian language content. But the reason for this was a long policy of Russification of Ukrainians in the past. The Russian war crimes on Ukraine's territory caused a massive aversion of Ukrainians to everything Russian: language, music, books, films, and others.
З 24 лютого, як ми можемо подивитися навіть статистику офіційну в Ютубі.
Since February 24th, the demand for Ukrainian language music has increased a lot. Of course, I wish it wasn't at that price. But this shift happened because Russia launched a full-scale war against us. We are getting ready for important shows that will take place in October. We will perform during international events that will take place in Poland. There, we will convey a message that it is crucial not to forget about the war in Ukraine, so people keep supporting us, and we will all conquer the evil that is now in our territory.
Як ми всі разом переможемо це зло, яке зараз на нашій території.
The cancellation of Russian culture is now relevant not only in Ukraine but in the whole world. several institutions, particularly the Metropolitan Opera, Carnegie Hall and the Bavarian Opera, terminated contracts with conductor Valery Gergiev and singer Anna Netrebko, and announced their refusal to cooperate with Russian artists. The Cannes Film Festival refused to accept the official Russian delegation and persons associated with the Russian government. However, not all countries are unequivocal about the restriction of Russian culture. You can support Ukrainian culture by attending concerts, performances and exhibitions of Ukrainians abroad, as well as by donating to our artists on United24, Patreon and other platforms. Also, you can turn on the online radio urbanspaceradio.com more often. We have collected the best works of young Ukrainian artists there. There was me, Catherine Litvinchova. You can find helpful links in the description of the episode. Please stay safe and listen to Ukrainian.